Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is the Produce Moms Podcast. My name is Lori Taylor, and I love hosting this show. Our mission here at the Produce Moms is to get more fruits and vegetables on every table, and it takes a lot of people to make that possible. Tons of innovators, growers, other stakeholders, and today our guest is no exception to the amazing work that we have done here on the Produce Moms Podcast and shined a bright light on. Shehbaz Singh, he is the founder of Fresh Life Extension, but really he is an absolute legend in our industry as it relates to keeping fresh produce fresh for as long as possible. I'm going to let him explain Fresh Life to you and the work he's done. He has a PhD. He's committed his entire academic and career life to extending the shelf life of fruits and vegetables and doing it in a way that makes sense for the supply chain as well as the consumers. So with that, Shehbaz, we're really glad you're here. Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast, my friend.
Thank you so much, Lori. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast again. And I don't know about you calling me a legend. That makes me feel really old. You're right. I've spent almost more than 20 years now in fresh produce and working on the major problems that affects this industry, which is shelf life. And I coined the word fresh life because a lot of times shelf life does not speak for quality. It's okay, somebody comes and says, hey, I want my lemons to last long for 60 days. And I'm like, you can still pick up a lemon which is going to be 60 days older, but how long is it going to last you? Is it going to be flavorful? Is it going to be tasty? Is it going to be fresh? So I coined the word fresh life instead of shelf life. And that's how I started my company 5 years ago, calling it Fresh Life Extension. So yes, I do have a PhD in shelf life extension or fresh life extension. My research was on modified atmosphere packaging and extending the fresh life of fresh produce. And that's what exactly we do in Fresh Life. We consult with grower, packers, shippers, retailers, and product development companies to come up with products and solutions that will enable their product to last longer and stay fresher.
Yeah.
My background, I'm also a food scientist, and I gradually worked my way from just food to beverages and then fresh produce because of my PhD. I started my career with PepsiCo a long time ago, working and making Frito-Lay chips. And then worked close to where you guys are in Fort Wayne, Indiana, working for 5 Hour Energy. And from there, I moved to the sunny California. I spent the last 20 years making produce last longer. So that's like what I've been doing for the last 20 years.
I love it. And it is important. We do know from research and broader industry understanding that there's different statistics, but somewhere between 35 to 40% of what is harvested ends up going to waste. The lion's share of that waste occurring at the household level, a good portion of it occurring at the retail shelf level. So Shehbaz, there's an obvious economic reason why this makes sense. We're looking to solve shrink and spoilage, which in turn, it's better for the economies of scale, it's better for the environment, it's better for consumer satisfaction. But I would love to get your take on why the focus on Fresh Life Extension is really critical for the fresh produce industry, but really all of food and bev. This is not just something that is top of mind for fresh produce. We do know that in fresh produce, there is a really high percentage of food that is harvested that goes to waste versus gets consumed. But really, this is, in your career journey, starting with the PepsiCo work, speaks to that. This is broader food and bev, and it's a critical issue for all of food.
Oh, absolutely. I think one thing we need to have it in our mind, and it's mind-boggling statistics, and I've been following this for the last 20 years. That number that you've just quoted, 35 to 40 to 45% of food waste, especially in fresh produce, has not changed in the last 30 years.
Wow.
When I came into this industry, people were still throwing that number. 10 years ago, it was the number, and I researched yesterday, and the number still is the same. So even though we've come up We've come so far in the last 20 years with our innovations, with our technology, with our improvements. That number is still 30 to 40%, and it's huge. Affects, as you said, economy, it's affecting everything. People are producing so much, energy is wasted, labor goes in, water, which right now we are struggling. We are in California, and I do not know what's going to happen. That's a topic that people are discussing, but like hushing away.
It's a trade discussion more than it is a consumer understanding.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think consumer needs to understand too. I think a lot of people in California started to understand that, hey, we don't have a lot of water, which means what? Oh, our almonds are going to get expensive, or walnuts are going to get expensive, or berries are going to get expensive,
Yeah.
just from climate and water. That's a whole other discussion. But if the food waste does not go down, it creates this massive social and economic problems. Let's keep this economic problem aside for a while, because yes, economy drives everything, but the social problem is we have less food, we have less food for people to feed. As simple, right? And if 30% or 40% of the food that is grown is going to go to waste, it just means that food becomes expensive for everybody, and then a lot of people don't get enough. So that's critical. So I feel extension in any way, whether it is pre-harvest or post-harvest, is absolutely critical. And anything that we from our scientific technology side, and you as marketing and produce influencer side can do our parts to make sure people are consuming more, people's perception towards fresh produce changes. In many ways, I would say, I always tell people, COVID was a good opportunity for fresh produce. People started eating more produce because they felt that, oh, we have to be eating better. So guess what we could do? We could start eating fresh produce. And so that, along with educating our new generation about plastics are not all that bad, and chemicals are really not that bad, if utilized in a more productive way, we can narrow this gap of 40%, so even 35%, or even from 35 to 30%, 5% is huge.
Tremendous. Yeah, it's a huge swing of the pendulum.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about all the years that you've spent developing, we'll call them shelf life solutions. So the modified atmosphere packaging and things that you have done that have shown up on shelf. Shehbaz, when you and I met, you were at Curation Foods.
Yes.
So let's maybe talk about some of the innovations and work you did during that stage of your career and what's come of it.
My time at Curation Food, which was previously called Appio, was the most exciting times. I spent about 10 years at Appio and Curation Foods, and we innovated and launched a lot of products. I think we were the first one to come up with the party trays. Now everything, those party trays are quintessential to any barbecue and backyard parties.
Right.
But it was us who came up with that concept. And with our breatheway and modified atmosphere packaging membrane, we were able to guarantee 17 days of shelf life. That was our first endeavor.
So the breatheway is that packaging that is sealed onto the top of those party trays.
Breatheway at that time used to be a small patch that would go on the packaging.
Got it.
And it would regulate the levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide within the package. And we'll come to that and how modified atmosphere packaging works, MAP 101. So from introducing those party trays to then coming up and launching the plethora of mixed salads. A sweet kale salad was one of the largest selling salads in North America at the time. And that was also packed in the modified atmosphere packaging, guaranteed 17 days of shelf life. So those kind of innovations we did at Appio and Curation Foods, which were designed for our own use.
Yeah.
Then my group designed technologies for our customers, and Chiquita used to be our biggest customer. We created something for Chiquita bananas that has not yet been created ever again. We enable Chiquita to pack 22 single finger bananas, and then those single finger bananas were sold at Starbucks. So we added tremendous value where Starbucks now could sell a banana for $1 instead of 49 cents a pound. And that innovation enabled Chiquita to pack 22 beautifully looking bananas, packed in our modified atmosphere packaging, and these were only delivered twice instead of every day to Starbucks. And then the manager could only pull one box out and display 22 fingers and then still keep them fresh and long lasting back in the storage.
And it was all because of that modified atmospheric
It
packaging.
is all because of modified atmosphere. We created that for mangoes. We created that for ready to eat avocados as well. It's amazing to see when we came up with the plan, because we were able to do that on a banana. We thought, hey, why can't we do this with avocados? Because who wants to go to our stores and start touching and feeling your avocados? Oh, this is not ripe enough. This is hard. Let me buy this avocado and it'll get ripened in the next 4 days. How about we gave you an avocado which was completely ripened, and you bring it home, it's ready to eat right then, and you put that in your fridge, and it is going to be ripe exactly at what you want for the next 4, 5, or even 6 days.
Yeah, it's huge.
So-
Big difference in mitigating that food waste.
Huge.
Yeah.
And then I think this is my favorite, and I'm proud of it because that was first developed by Fresh Life Extension, the company I started 4 years ago, was coming up with a retail packaging for sliced mushrooms. Mushrooms are a challenge on its own. Their shelf life is not a lot. Usually we get about 8 to 9 or 10 days of mushroom shelf life. And when you slice them, that shelf life is almost cut in half. Now, to even guarantee 24 hours of shelf life on sliced mushroom is a big deal. We were able to go from 8 to 9 days to up to 14 days of sliced mushrooms shelf life. So all of your pizzas that you get from food service has mushrooms, and it was a bummer when Costco stopped its fresh veggie pizza because that was our biggest customer. And I heard like a year later that there is still a campaign that people have going, a signature campaign for Costco to bring the fresh
Bring it back.
bring it back.
Yeah.
These are some of the innovations that I saw and oversaw that I'm really proud of that came along. There's
You
so
should
many.
be. Yeah, you should be. It's important work. And we mentioned the concept of swinging the pendulum, talking about really mitigating food waste. But really, Shehbaz, let's envision this as swinging the pendulum with consumption. When you have, these innovations are yielding heightened consumption of fresh produce, which is the common thread that really unites every single stakeholder in this industry. We want people to eat more fresh produce, and this is a huge play that really the end game is eat more fresh produce, more so than anything. We want people to eat more fresh produce, and if your product is fresh and it stays fresher in your fridge more often, you are cutting down so many of those barriers as to why people don't buy and eat more produce more often.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we did some research right before I started. For a very short period of time, I used to work for a company called Strela. And we did some market research there, and we found out that if a customer has a bad experience buying fresh produce from a certain retailer or any retailer, they do not go back to the same retailer for up to 6 weeks.
Wow.
That's huge for a retailer. That's what they thrive on. You want more footfalls, people coming back. And if you went to XYZ retailer and you bought a bag of apples and they did not taste good and it had browning inside and all sorts of other physiological issues, you're like, oh, I'm not going to go to XYZ. Last time I bought some apples, they were not good. Let me go to ABC now. And that's pretty big when it comes to enticing your customers with fresh produce, them eat more, and if you're not able to provide good quality it defeats the purpose.
Absolutely. So let's talk about how at Fresh Life Extension, the work you're doing, let's kind of break down the value chain. Like why is the work you do important to the growers, to the farmers?
When they come to me, they've already gone through their pre-harvest procedures, right? They've got the harvest. They now are looking at, hey, we need to make sure that our product stays longer, fresher, and travels farther. What can you do to help us mitigate and create certain environments for our product so that we can sell at a premium and we can convince our retailers that, hey, we are growing it in California, and if you want it in Florida, we'll be able to supply that to you.
Right.
So that's kind of like that's the segue when they come to me. And from there, I do not just say, hey, take this package and it worked for strawberry, it's going to work for lettuce as well. No, that doesn't happen. They completely are two different things. Everything is custom designed, looking at how their supply chain is going to look like and what is going to be the final consumer. I worked on something where 2 years ago, I was working on providing a shelf life solution for strawberries. Now, these strawberries were supposed to go to Puerto Rico and Hawaii, and they didn't want to go by air. So we needed at least 22 to 23 days of shelf life. And I'm like, listen, guys, any solution that you use is not going to be. I have this term, I always say that any Fresh Life solution is not a hospital. It's not going to fix your bad quality product. Okay.
Right.
If you give me a great quality product, I can make it last longer. But if you give me a bad product, it's going to get bad no matter what. And during that time period, we worked, we ran trials, we used different polymers and different packaging material and ran trials, and we got 24 days of shelf life.
Wow.
So now what we are doing is that enable that grower, shipper, packer to use this technology and not spend money on air shipments and just ship these by sea. That's huge savings, huge savings.
Yeah. Opens up new markets too. And really it is all about market access. Everyone on the consumer side and even in the trade, we talk a lot about sustainability as a key pillar. When really, I wish, honestly, Shehbaz, I wish there was more dialogue around market access and what does it actually take to get the retailers to buy into the product that you have and put it on shelf and make it accessible to consumers. Because as far as I'm concerned, that is step one in sustainability. You're never going to be sustainable if you can't break in and have that market access.
Absolutely. And I think, unfortunately, the dialogue around sustainability only happens with plastics. And oh no, plastics are bad, ban them, single-use plastic is not very good. And that puts pressure on the retailers because it's all coming from social media influencers. And I'm like, these guys have no idea what plastics is doing for you. And then the retailers get that pressure, and the retailers then press the growers and shippers. Hey, how can you reduce plastic? And then the retailers are like, and then the grower shipper comes to us or plastic manufacturers like, hey, can you reduce your plastic? I know the entire industry went crazy a few years ago when Canada came in and said, hey, we don't want you to use this plastic. And everybody was like, whoa, okay, who are these people who are making these decisions? They have no idea what goes on in the plastics industry to actually help our precious produce last longer. And I think our industry did an excellent job putting up guidelines and guardrails for the Canadian market and their government institutions and say, hey, just do this. That's all is needed. You want 30, 40%, we are already at 40% wastage. If you don't do this, you're going to go to 50 or 60%. You don't want that.
Right.
So I think that dialogue around sustainability needs to include, and the retailers also need to understand from a perspective of science and technology where the most value and innovation is happening and how plastics and chemicals can be beneficial. I do not say that all chemicals are bad. If you look at our organic charter, there are a lot of organic chemicals that are still used and they are really good. There's nothing wrong in that. That needs to be communicated, not only to the retailers, but the consumers as well, because I feel consumers have no idea.
No. I
Consumers,
mean,
no.
they're passionate and they with the access to information, there's the passionate consumers but are they getting it from a reliable source?
Yeah.
And really, Shehbaz, I've committed the last 20 years of my life to this industry and I'm still learning every day. The thought that someone at the household level who is a consumer of agricultural products can understand the complexities of agriculture is really not a realistic that's not going to happen. So how can all of us within the supply chain do what we can to make that information and understanding more accessible to the end consumer?
And you know what I did? I exactly did that. I went to a local college. It's Allen Hancock, and I teach an ag leadership, communications, and sales course and an ag economics course part time. And my thing was, I need to go in and at least educate these young students who are coming and who would be leading our ag industries. They need to know not only about leadership and communication and what agriculture does, but all these other industries, which now are categorized as ag technology. So it becomes more exciting to them. Ag needs to be made more sexy, which is not happening. I don't see a lot of young people coming into agriculture. I'm like, okay, guys, it's just not picking fruit. Okay, you can create packaging, you can go into supply chain management. I am now encouraging all these transfer students of mine who are going to go join other universities. I'm like, if you get an opportunity, please take a supply chain management course, and if you can, take a packaging course if it is offered in your university.
Yeah.
Understand what is happening in the world of agriculture. So I've taken my step and I teach them like, hey, you know what? This is ginger. People don't know what ginger is.
Yeah.
And this is how you use it. This is what we have created for you. Please start paying attention. And it is completely okay if your avocado has a little bit of mold in it once it's in your fridge. Wash it. You're not eating the skin. You're just eating what's inside. And if it's good, just eat it. It's okay.
Right.
And they're like, oh, I throw my stuff. I'm like, no, if tomatoes on the vine and the vine has mold, the tomatoes is fine. Just wash it and eat it. It's okay.
Interesting. I love it. So as you think about, let's continue that journey down the supply chain. I know we mentioned market access. Why are retailers incredibly interested in the work that you do? Why is Fresh Life Extension critical for retailers?
I think especially for retailers, what we have seen as far as the data is concerned, 3 to 7% of the produce that retailers are getting goes to shrink in the retail store.
3 to 7%, you said?
3 to 7%. And sometimes it's even
millions and millions of dollars.
Oh, absolutely. And in some cases, it's even up to 14%.
Wow. Okay, that's
what product it is. So a more sturdier product, 2 to 3%. A lesser sturdier product, 5 to 7%, and things like berries, which are hugely expensive and they don't have a long shelf life or fresh life, the shrink is up to 14%. Now that's something that they've already paid the grower shipper packer for, right? And if the customer is not going to buy it in store and it just sits on the shelf and goes to waste, that's huge losses.
Right.
And that's why what I do is becoming more and more relevant to the retailer. Previously, it was grower shipper packers who would come to me and say, hey, design something for us because the retailer is asking for it. Mm-hmm. And we created stuff for them. Now the retailer is saying, okay, these guys are already doing all of that. I can't push them even more, but now the spoilage is happening on my end. So what am I going to do? What if this avocado is not sold for 2 days and then you've got bins and bins of avocados that are sitting there and go black and then get soft? That's not the fault of the supplier. Right. Because all of that produce got checked, quality assessed on arrival at the retailer's DC. Right. So now if it sits on the DC and on the retail store or at the retail warehouse in the back, that's their losses. Mm-hmm. So that's when my work gets even more important, not only from a modified atmosphere packaging perspective, but also from scouting and looking at other technologies that might be existed that can help specifically the retailer at their end.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's so important. And there are other stakeholders, folks. We are just going from the grower to the retailer right to the household level in this discussion and example that Shehbaz and I are walking through. But trust me, like logistics, cold storage, processing facilities, Shehbaz mentioned DCs, like the distribution centers. There are so many other stops. We are simply calling out three of the primary ones. So let Shehbaz now talk from a consumer household level. Why is Fresh Life Extension important there? I think, honestly, this is the most easy one. For me, it's, okay, I buy fresh produce. I don't want it to spoil the day I get it.
Exactly. And we have to look at how our consumer, especially in North America, is.
Right.
We are a club store consumer. If you are a family of three or more, you are a club store, either a Costco or a Sam's Club shopper. We go once every 2 weeks to buy our groceries. We then put those groceries in our massive, huge refrigerators. Some families have two, one in the garage, one in the kitchen.
That's me.
And then it becomes important that everything that we buy at least have a 2 week shelf life with us. And we are also a consumer that is an impulse buyer. If you go to Costco or a club store and you are hungry and you've not had those samples that they are sampling, we tend to buy more. And impulse buying happens, I feel, more at the fresh produce aisle than anywhere else. Because anywhere else, any other processed food product will last in your shelf for 60 days, sometimes even 3 months. That's not a problem for them.
Yeah.
But our product is like, oh, look at this watermelon. It is beautiful and it is this big. And oh, I'm going to get it. We're going to make a juice out of it. And all our kids are going to eat watermelon. And so we buy all of that and then we shove our fridges and they are packed. And now the week starts. People are busy. They not have time to cook and prepare and all that. And then stuff starts to rot in the refrigerators.
Right.
This is where the maximum amount of food waste happens. And so it becomes more challenging for somebody like me to look at the entire supply chain and see where is my technology going to matter the most. The way I designed my project was anything that is in North America goes through a 737 cycle. 7 days from harvest to initial processing to shipping to the retailer, 3 days max at the retailer, and then at least 7 days in the consumer's home. Yeah. If we can do this, we are golden. So that becomes the benchmark for my trials, that I will do this trial, which is 17 days. If it gets to 21, that's great. Then somebody's going to have a little bit more melon in their refrigerator. But 17 days is absolutely important for our consumers. Consumers in other countries do not buy stuff for 2 weeks.
Right.
They have convenience store on the next door neighborhood. They go in, they come from work, they buy product, they make food, and there the losses are minimal. Right. I grew up in India. We never saw, even now, we never see food going waste because our fridges are small. We don't put anything in there.
Yeah.
It's my mom would go and buy stuff and then she comes in and cooks and then it's all gone.
No, it's fascinating. It's a huge, it's one of those cultural differences with how we all experience our food and the different types of shoppings and societal norms and everything else. I learned a lot about it, Shehbaz. In 2019 through 2021, I worked with Beko, which is a leading appliance brand and manufacturer in Europe and Eastern Europe. And they were launching their U.S. product lines. And it was a huge learning curve for everyone at the table because they were accustomed to making products and putting out marketing campaigns that were connecting with a consumer and a household that had totally different patterns and interests than what they had in America. And they felt like their technology for the produce crisper drawers extending the fresh life for up to 30 days of fresh produce, that was what they hung their hat on here in America.
And it's funny that you bring this up because, especially the crisper. I used to say, and even now, crisper is where fresh produce goes to die. That's the graveyard of refrigeration. And number two, you bring in Europe. I had friends come over from Norway and they'd never been to the US. They were on a road trip. They came to our home and they looked at our refrigerator and, what do you guys put in here? I'm like, you haven't seen the one that I have in the garage. And I'm like, oh my God, you have 2 fridges? I'm like, yeah, we shop once every 14 days or 2 weeks. And he goes, if you go to my house now, all you will see in my refrigerator is jam, butter, and eggs. That's it.
Wow.
That's all you're going to find. And I'm like, wow, that's a huge cultural shift.
It is
But,
huge.
that's what our consumer is. We are one of the largest markets in the world. And that's why 17 days of shelf life for us is bare minimum. Minimum.
Yeah, I love that. Let's look ahead. What does fresh life extension and innovation look like 2026 and beyond, Shehbaz? What do you see as the future of new innovations?
I've been looking at new innovations, and I think we've had this offline discussions many times, Lori. It's a lot of times it's the same technologies repackaged. And I've been thinking about that as well. I'm like, why is that happening? And I came to a conclusion, or my opinion, a lot of people from the previous generation are leaving this industry. Yeah. There's a huge exodus or retirement of old knowledge that existed, and that's all going away. New people come into companies and they are not aware of what is happening. So that presents an opportunity to repackage the same old stuff that actually works and come in and then still keep doing its job. So that's the old packaged in new. Mm-hmm. Then you've got some new technologies that I have come across in the last year or so, which I feel will contribute to, especially one thing that I'm working on. I don't know if I can talk about it right now, but I may not. But it is something that addresses this situation at a retailer level, because retailers are already getting their produce packaged. So what can they do in their end? What technologies can they use at their end to extend and not have this massive losses within that 3 days that they have? So
yeah, you mentioned 3%, 7% at best, some commodities up to 14%. That is big dollars.
Big dollars. I'm excited about those technologies that is going to now hit that. Plus technologies which could coexist with in the supply chain with the truckers. All we have for the truckers and or these refrigerated trucks,
the logistic partners,
it's only temperature. I think if you asked me 10 years ago, I used to say all you need for shelf life extension is temperature. I think we've conquered that. I feel our industry has come a long way to make sure that our supply chains are better and cooler. And if they've got AI now and they've got sensors and everybody's watching an eye on where the temperature is and if it goes up and what to do, and all of that is being done. But inside of the truck, it is still the same. There is a cooler and there is a temperature recorder which might tell you what is happening, but that's it. It doesn't stop there. What are you doing inside of the trailer is where the next innovation needs to happen.
I love it.
And I think that is where the focus needs to be. And if somebody can come up with that, they are looking at a huge
market, big, no ceiling. There's so many ways that could be implemented at different stages of the supply chain as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Not right after harvest, the produce come into the coolers. There's forced air cooling, and that's it.
Right.
So those kind of technologies can exist there, in the retailer, in the truck. So you've got a complete entire supply chain that can be built around those kind of technologies. And if you're first to the market, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, absolutely. Shehbaz, this has been a great conversation. It's really good to reconnect with you here at the Produce Moms podcast, and I've so enjoyed having you as one of my mentors and colleagues here in this industry for now
Right.
like over a decade, Shehbaz. We've known each
Yeah.
other for over 10 years. But let's talk about one final takeaway as part of your closing thoughts today. I will say one thing that you said that really was compelling for me, and I think it's something that deserves a little bit of emphasis here as we transition to our closing remarks is that plastics aren't necessarily the problem. I think that is something that is extremely misunderstood. We have several episodes where we've talked about it, and certainly we don't want to misrepresent the fact that everyone's working towards reduction, but there is to think that a blanket statement like all plastics are bad and we need to get rid of them. That's not true. I read a study recently, Shehbaz, about the seedless cucumbers and how that wrap around the seedless cucumbers extends the shelf life, to your point, by over 15 days. And without that wrap, the seedless cucumbers are usually decaying before they even find their way to the retail shelf. When you said that earlier in our conversation, it really brought me back to that study and what I have come to understand as an absolute truth in our industry. But with that, I'll transition the mic to you for your closing remarks, help people understand how they can stay engaged with the work you're doing and anything that you'd really like people to remember from today's episode. And of course, saying goodbye to our listeners.
Thank you. I'm glad you brought what you just said as our closing remarks. And I would like to point out that we are that generation that found out that our ozone layer was diminishing, and we have fixed that problem. A lot of people do not realize that there is no issues with ozone anymore. It's coming back. We've gotten rid of the chlorofluorocarbons in our refrigerant systems. So we are those people who can fix problems. So if plastic becomes a problem, we need to come together and fix it, and we will. From educating the consumers about how healthy for them is to eat more fresh produce, and how as an industry we can provide them with a better tasting, better long lasting produce is key. We could do that as a collective effort. We have to start coming together and forming a solution rather than one person says, oh, you know what, it's the plastic company's problem, it's the fertilizer company's problem, it's the chemical company's problem. How about you go solve that issue? Why is it not a consumer problem who brings a bag of grapes on a beach and then just throws the grapes, the bag? It's a cumulative societal problems. We have to fix it. And if we are able to do that, we will not have this 30-40% waste. Our produce will go cheaper because we're not going to add or include that 40% shrink into our calculations, right? So our produce is going to get cheaper. People will eat more. People will be more healthier. Our insurance costs will go down. Our healthcare will be better. So it's all about, all you have to do is just eat fresh produce. And we'll make sure that we'll provide you with fresh produce, and that's mine and your job. And once we do that, we'll be a healthier, more robust society.
I love it. Shehbaz,